Expo, and I'm here with Marc Silvestri. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great.
Cool.
Great.
So here we are celebrating the 20 years of Image Comics. Did you ever think that it would get this crazy and this far?
You know, it's funny because, and this is an oft-told story, that 6 months after we were in business as Image, getting phone calls constantly from the guys at Marvel, the upper guys, like, you know, it's about time you guys came back. This isn't going to last much longer. It's like 20 years later, here we are. You know, it's like, and now it's like we were talking, the guys were talking last night, and kind of just trying to absorb the fact that Image Comics is now a part of pop culture history, because we have 20 years behind us and we can look back at a moment in time that actually had an effect on something. You know, and now that comic books has become such a big IP generator all over the place, the fact that we were a huge part of, I mean, you could fairly argue that that moment was the only real moment in comics history. Everything else was pretty like, oh, here comes Marvel. It's like, oh, there's a couple characters that are kind of interesting. Marvel comes up, blah, 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 takes over DC, all that stuff. But there was no bam ever in comics. And you know, the closest you can come to is when Frank Miller threw out Dark Knight, and everybody went, what?
Or 86, Watchmen.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's like, but as far as impact and lasting impact, 1982 or 92.
Yeah, it's crazy. And it's also interesting when you think about where Marvel was at. I mean, it was like 25, 30 years from their inception to when you guys broke away, and now here we are. You're almost at the same point as a company. Like, that's something to be proud of, right?
It's a little crazy. Eric Larson and I were talking about that last night, and the fact that, remember when you were a kid, bud, and you were reading comic books, and think about how old you were. And I was thinking, oh, okay, I was in the 70s. It's like, Marvel was only 15 years old when you were reading comic books. Going, oh, man, thank you for making me feel even older. But it's great, you know, we're here and we made changes that not only stuck, but they brought on a life of their own. You know, so we're happy about that.
And it's really interesting to see what you've done at Top Cow, because in the 20 years, you know, like McFarlane's had Spawn and there's been offshoots, and you know, and Larson's been doing Savage Dragon, but I feel as if Top Cow has been the one, you guys have created new stuff all throughout these 20 years, from Cyberforce to Witchblade to Darkness, etc.
Well, I have OCD for one thing. No, for real. It's funny, but when the Image opportunity happened, I was kind of on my way out of comics, simply because, and Rob's actually mentioned this about his career, there was this feeling, because I was on the X-Men, now what? You know, there was literally at that time nothing else beyond that. You reached the pinnacle. Okay, well, you can't be at the pinnacle for 30 years of your career. It's like, you know, you're already bored after a few. So I was actually on my way out until Image happened, and went, all these possibilities, you know, all these ideas that you really you didn't know what to do with, because you were at the mercy of. Which, look, I get the corporate structure of, I get it completely, you know, and more power to anybody who wants to work, you know, because being on your own is not for everyone. We understand that, but suddenly, all the possibilities of all these ideas that before you would be told no to, nobody could tell you no. And you know, for me, it's like the floodgates opened up, and we literally couldn't publish enough ideas that we had, you know, as a whole, and all the creative people that have been with us over the years, amazingly creative people, Joe Benitez, Mike Turner, all these guys with all these ideas, Dave Finch, and it's like, and myself, and it's like, who could publish that many books, you know? And so that was like the great thing, you know, and part of the reason why, you know, Top Cow as a whole is kind of an expanded universe, which is unusual in this aspect of our genre, you know, that's not Marvel or DC. And it's not because we want to be Marvel and DC. We don't, you know, have any desire to be, number one, that big, because it's pointless. I don't understand it. And we also don't want to dilute ourselves too much, because, you know, less can be more. Obviously, we know that. But once we established that our universe was based in the supernatural, which is something DC and Marvel were not doing, obviously, it kind of took off from there. It's like, you know what? We have these great ideas. We have great talent. Let's kind of start to expand a little bit slowly based off of this stuff. So we have the technology-based universe of Cyberforce, and we have the supernatural universe based off of Witchblade and Darkness. And every now and then, especially surprises coming up in the future, those universes are going to start crossing. Yeah. So I mean, we're just having a great time.
Yeah, no,
that's that's the short answer. You know why? Because it's fun. Okay. That's why we have so many ideas, because it's fun. Thank you.
That's most important. Well, congratulations. We're having fun reading. I mean, I'm loving Artifacts and the new direction everything's always taken currently right now.
Thank you.
But it's just great to see you guys kind of still iterating. And like you mentioned, so many great talents coming out of you guys. And as an artist, I mean, was that something that was important to you in forming Top Cat, or form like a studio, like a kind of a system to break new talent? Or
it was because when I started in comics, literally, and that was with DC back in 1981. oh, my hernia. I literally, DC Comics sent me a script. Not a script, a plot, more like Marvel style. And that was a week after I got the gig, right? I got this thing in the mail. I was like, now what do I do? Yeah. I mean, I literally had no idea. I didn't even know what size paper to work on, let alone, who do I send it to?
Yeah.
What do I do?
It was like, dropped you right into it.
They did. They just threw me right into this thing with this 8-page, short story from, I think, House of Mystery or something like that. And I had not a clue. And it's like, wow, it took me years and years because we're all isolated, especially back then, FedEx and all that stuff. It's like we were all over the country, and like very few people lived in New York that actually did comics. That I never wanted that feeling again personally, but I also thought, wow, if I had had someone at least who had been in the business to kind of mentor me a little bit, I could have grown as an artist so much faster. And I could have gotten so much better so much faster just with the environment of being around people that do what I do. I was never around anyone that even read comic books. Let alone understood what the hell I was doing at a drawing board all by myself at 3 o'clock in the morning. How do you explain that? You can't. So the idea of a studio, especially when we were at Homage Studios in San Diego with Jim and Wills and Scott, that was like comic book heaven, right? And right at the beginning of Image, so things were crazy. But the atmosphere was amazing. The energy, the second you stepped into that room, was just... I don't know if you could ever repeat it. It's the closest thing that a non-drug addict can come to a drug. Because you feed off of each other, and everyone gets good so fast. Because everyone's looking at what everyone else is doing. I'm walking around, and it's like, what, if we try this, this, or this? And I found that like mentoring and sort of teaching was a lot of fun for me. I've been in comics for enough years, and I've seen enough that even if I'm lack in some area, I know someone who's really good, in that area. So I can point to that person and go, this is why this person rocks. I use Mike Mignola, by the way. Mike, because he's amazing at what he does, and nobody else does what he does. So it's like if someone has, as an example, an issue with composition, or with being bold with placing blacks in an illustration, I pull out the Mike Mignola reference, and I say, look, this is how you do it, and this is how I tried to do it from him, and this is how I failed miserably, but this is how you do it, right? And so the studio situation and the whole system, I think, was incredibly beneficial, and I think anyone who follows comics, they see the people that came out of that system, and I don't think anyone who was involved in that could complain about being part of that. I think you ask anyone, they look kind of fondly back at those days where, the doors never shut. It's 24 hours. It's like it was great to walk into the studio at midnight. And there was Mike Turner, there was Joe Benitez, there was Dave Finch, there was Billy Tan over there. It's just, Randy Queen was over there, and there'd be like this full house at midnight of guys doing what? Comics. They were doing comics. And Peter Steigerwald and Brian Haberlin were in the other room on, the early days of using the Max for the coloring and production. It's like, I would look around and go, are you serious? This is the coolest thing ever. So it's like,
living the dream.
It's great. And that camaraderie of comic books that is pretty hard to find elsewhere. When you really think about it, there's all kinds of media, all kinds of genre for entertainment, but comics is very unique in that the brotherhood and sisterhood of comics, professionally and fan, it's very tight. It's very tight, and it's unlike music and all that stuff. It's like you got these small groups of people that like each other and create stuff, but the whole industry is not very close knit. It's very cutthroat, and good music comes out of it, but I like this business better. I just do. Look around ImageCon. This is celebrating independence. This is literally celebrating life, because what life is, to live it fully, is to take some chances. So if I'm going to get metaphysical for a second, it's like the whole spirit of independence is really the spirit of like living your life fully, and pursuing your dreams. It's like, ask Robert Kirkman if any of his dreams have come true. And the biggest part of that dream, I think he'll tell you, is not just that he got a TV show on the air, which is awesome, but it's an extension of him, and he's doing it. It's his. All right. And he's having a good time. He can do what he wants with it. If he wants to, get off the show, he can get off the show, and there's no more. But it's up to him. And that's, to me, that's doing it his way. It's like Frank Sinatra would sing. It's like. It's great. That should be the theme song of Image Comics.
Yeah, my way. Right?
Exactly.
Well, you guys have definitely set an example for a lot of up-and-coming creators, and it's really exciting to see so many people here just loving comics. That's great.
That's awesome. And that's what this show's about.
Yeah.
This show's not about necessarily, the next big blockbuster coming out.
Watching trailers in a dark room, right?
Watching trailers and stuff. We got some Walking Dead stars here, but it's not, we don't have, not everyone's dressed as Iron Man here. So it celebrates comics.
Excellent.
Yeah.